I've noticed that women today, not all, but mostly liberal women, they pretend to be tough, but yet when you see these type of movements, they are saying that they're weak. You know, they need laws, and they accuse men. It's as though they don't know how or have the strength to say no to a man or to walk away. While yet you hear them say, "Oh, I'm a strong woman. I'm strong, I'm wonderful, it's like they're lying. A lie is in there somewhere. Because a strong woman or a strong person wouldn't be crying and passing laws and trying to hurt other people. They would defend themselves. They would go on with life because life offers so many challenges. Are they weak or are they strong? I don't know what they are and what they want. And it's mostly liberal women, feminist kind of people. Do you consider yourself a feminist?
I consider myself a human being.
How about a feminist?
I consider myself a human being.
How about a feminist?
I consider myself a human being.
How about a feminist?
I consider myself a human being.
So what is the purpose of going public? All these women are coming out saying, "Me too, time's up." What is the purpose of that? What do they want?
One of the things that we are working on behalf of survivors of sexual violence and domestic violence is reform within the justice system and the law enforcement communities. So we want to build that bridge so that survivors, God forbid this happens to somebody, and they're afraid to call the police because they're going to be re-victimized in the system. They won't be believed, their communities will shun them, maybe they would even lose their job or lose their children, or worse, have somebody re-attack them out of retribution. So a lot of women have stayed silent because of all of these conditional pressures. And so what we want and what we're working actively toward on a daily basis is to not just reform the system as a whole and make it more compassionate and transparent and effective, but also change the way culturally that American society looks at sexual violence, the over-sexualization of women, especially in mainstream media, marketing, that trickles down into faith, family values, community responsibility, social awareness.
And so when you say reform, you mean new laws, more laws?
New laws, for sure, certain emergency actions that can be taken. We're looking at ways to create more accountability, more transparency, and more urgency when survivors come forward and they need help. The system is a very slow mechanism.
Did you attend the Golden Globe Award this year?
I did not. I watched it, but I did not.
What did you think about that? The women dressed in black, and then Oprah got up and carried on like a black preacher. Were you like, what in the world is going on, as I was about it?
I looked at the Golden Globes as an opportunity, partly as an opportunity to see, okay, let's see real change happen now. And also as a wait and see if, okay, they've spoken up, they've done this, they've had this all-black solidarity dress code. Great. I'm wearing all black except my jacket, but that's because I'm from New York and that's what we do, is we wear all black in Manhattan.
Did you see the hypocrisy of Hollywood that night? And that, as you said earlier, they sexualize men and women.
Right.
They create these problems, and then when these folks go out of control concerning sex, Hollywood come back and pretend to be the savior of the problem when they're really the primary cause of the problem. So did you see the hypocrisy in them that night?
I saw a fair bit of rear end covering.
Yeah.
Nice way of putting it. Looking over the shoulder in one sense. Yes, that I think to anybody that works within the industry, it's fairly obvious. How we choose to utilize those observations is really what's important, right? People are always going to be out there walking the red carpet, being fancy, singing and preaching the words, but what are the actions to back it up?
Yeah.
And when you see real actions being backed up on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, that's where the real work and the progress is going to be made.
What I thought was interesting too is that most of those women, they kissed up at Harvey Weinstein. They Oprah hugging him. We've seen pictures of that.
Oh, yes.
Harvey Weinstein is such a beautiful person. I saw Oprah, for example, with a white girl meeting with Harvey, and she was just really, like she was turning over a piece of meat to Harvey, and Harvey was pinching her on the shoulders. And now that this information comes out, all those women are acting like they knew nothing about it. They have their careers going now. They use Harvey for their own personal gain. And now they're turning on the person that they used. And it's been said that they knew what was going on all these years. As a woman, what do you think about women like that?
That is a very, I will tell you, from certain angles of my own personal experience, not with Mr. Weinstein, thank goodness, but in other circles within the entertainment industry, it has always been widely accepted that sex sells.
Right.
It has been a difficult and quite divisive situation for women because on one hand, you're absolutely right. They're at least from everything I've read, because I don't have firsthand knowledge, but from people I've spoken to and things I've read, there was a fair amount of knowledge within this. And somebody in the New Yorker wrote that Weinstein existed on a network of cooperation. He needed their silence to allow this to continue. So people turned a blind eye, or they thought, ooh, my job is in jeopardy. I got to feed my kids. I don't want to lose my job.
Or they just had a personal gain for themselves, so they knew and didn't care as long as they got what they wanted. I
think having been a survivor of sexual violence and being in a situation where I was involved in long-term domestic violence that affected my professional career, I can speak firsthand and say it's not that easy for women. And I think that is probably true of multiple suppressed and oppressed groups of people.
So are you saying that these women wanted what they wanted so badly? They wanted their careers, they wanted to be famous, they wanted to be number one, that meant more to them than standing up for what is right?
I think that in some cases there is a misinformation and misguiding sometimes that happens of moral agency. And what I mean by that is you work so hard. I'll give you an example, okay? I'll give you my own personal example of me so that I'm speaking of my own knowledge. So I was involved with an individual who ended up being very domestically violent. But on paper, this individual looked great. Great six-figure job, worked for multinational corporations, suit and tie, totally, on paper, the dream guy. And my parents had always taken issue with previous boyfriends and partners that I'd had because I'm in music and sometimes there's some seedy characters around, And so for me, I stayed with this individual because it was so important to me to relieve my parents of the burden of having to worry about my choices.
How old were you at the time?
28, 29.
So you're an adult.
I was old enough to know better.
Yeah.
But it was so important to me that my parents approved, in the sense that I was willing to overlook early signs of this violent behavior. Oh, he had a bad day at work. Oh, this happened. Oh, that happened. Oh, I forgot to clean up the house today. I was busy, whatever it might have been. And it escalated and escalated and escalated until pretty soon I was in too deep.
Would you trust any of those women who were at the Golden Globe and carrying on about sexual harassment, knowing that they went along with it because it was like Harvey may have been using them, but it seemed as though they were using him as well. If you give me a job, I give you sex. If you make me a producer, I'll do this. It seems like they're using each other. Would you trust those women who would take advantage of him and then turn on him? Would you trust them? Personally, trust anyone that you know would turn on you once they get what they want from you?
I think...
and then they'll be, oh, you're a bad woman. You harass me. And now they made buku money, they're known in film,
Right.
or whatever they wanted from you. Would you trust a woman like that?
I think it would depend on the situation, and I think it would depend on the person.
But how about if you know they use you, and you were using them too? But
and there are situations
right.
like that, sure.
But would you trust a woman that would turn on you after she used you for her own personal gain and cause you to look like the perpetrator,
right?
To the world?
Okay.
Would you trust that kind of person?
Let me ask you this question. Trust is an interesting word because it implies a deeper relationship than what may be there. So would I continue to associate with that individual professionally because it benefited myself or my company, or I knew that it would somehow mutually benefit us, even though there is no trust and there is no personal trust?
Well, do this for me because I'm black and slow, and sometimes I need like yes and no answers.
Okay.
Would you trust a woman who you hired and she wanted something from you for her own personal gain?
Mm-hmm.
You wanted something from her, and you two used each other. And then once this woman get what she wants
Right.
from you, she go out and turn on you. Oh, Emiko is a bad person. She sexual harassed me, and now this woman got all that she wants from you.
Right.
Both users.
Sure.
Would you trust that person ever again?
No.
So should we trust those women that were dressed in black, knowing, according to all the stories that we read, that they used Harvey Weinstein, and apparently he used them? Should we trust them that they are really victims, or should we believe that they have another agenda?
I think it would depend on the situation.
But in this particular situation, knowing that they're gonna, take all they want from you, they're gonna give you all the sex or whatever you need, and then you're gonna get what? Would you trust any of those women in your company, knowing that they can turn on you?
I might.
This guy you were living with, is that right, or working with?
A little bit of both.
A little bit. And so did you apologize to him for bringing the worst out of him? You know how women irritate men, they can be nasty, they can be cunning, and not all, but most. And it brings out that in men because men don't know how to deal with that when it comes out of a woman. Did you apologize to him for what you did to him?
I did, as a matter of fact.
Good. 'Cause a lot of women won't apologize.
So it's important that I insert here, to survive any sort of attack or assault, sexual or otherwise, it is not the victim's fault. And it is important for all people, both genders, to take personal responsibility.
Yes.
I could have been a little bit more compassionate. I could have worked. That does not give you the right to assault me. That does not give you the right to rape. That does not give you the right to commit a racial hate crime or anything. But if in my heart I know that I have done everything I can to be compassionate to you, right, to communicate with you, to accept and hear your pain, and you're still going to do that to me, I couldn't have stopped it anyway.
I've noticed that women today, not all, but mostly liberal women, they pretend to be tough, but yet when you see these type of movements, they are saying that they're weak. They need laws, and they accuse men. It's as though they don't know how or have the strength to say no to a man or to walk away. Whereas when I was growing up, women were stronger. And if they didn't want to do anything with you, you knew it. You said, okay, fine. What happened to these women that they're so weak that they need to pass laws? They're always complaining. They're starting movements. While yet you hear them say, oh, I'm a strong woman. I'm strong. I'm wonderful. It's like they're lying. A lie is in there somewhere, because a strong woman or a strong person wouldn't be crying and passing laws and trying to hurt other people. They would defend themselves. They would go on with life because life offers so many challenges. Are they weak or are they strong? I don't know what they are and what they want. And it's mostly liberal women, feminist kind of people.
Well, I think in my experience firsthand with connecting with a lot of survivors and supporters of survivors, we have found that it actually takes great strength to come forward to tell your story. And
it doesn't take much strength to do that.
It does.
It takes strength to say, hey, guy, I don't want to have sex with you. Leave me alone.
Well,
and then you notice when they come forward with the movement, it's not just one, they got a whole bunch of women. They're still not standing alone the way a strong person would do. Wouldn't you agree?
No.
Oh, why not?
I absolutely would not agree. If that was the case, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in all the work that he did in equality, in compassion, and in education, would have marched on Washington alone.
But that was about changing a law that prevented people based on color only.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about one-on-one interaction.
In a lot of ways, though, one-on-one interaction did occur that was incorrect. There were plenty of white, privileged oppressors that took advantage of the system to continue to abuse and oppress African Americans who are great contributors of society.
When did that happen and when?
All throughout history. As soon as white people started going to Africa and pulling people against their will onto slave ships.
That didn't happen. That's a made-up lie. The blacks were sold to the Arabs by other blacks, elitist black, rich blacks, kings, and then those Arabs took them to other parts of the world and sold them. The white man didn't just go to Africa to get some Negroes. That was made up.
Either way, they were sold against their will. A human being is not to be bought or sold. They're not a commodity.
But it wasn't about a so-called white privileged male.
Okay, let's substitute the word white for Arab then.
No, yeah, it was
That's fine.
The Arabs who did it. And yes, maybe that was wrong, but the white man didn't do it. So likewise,
but it was still wrong.
It's such a very interesting point you're making, because likewise, these liberal women, they could be making up lies too, just like you thought that was the truth. They could be pushing a lie as well with a hidden agenda. Is that possible?
No.
And why is that?
Because there's been enough unrefuted proof that has come out that sexual violence against women has systematically existed for generations.
Over the last 20 years or so, there have been a lot of laws passed against men to restrict them. And so now these women are like going out of control. They're slapping them, yelling at them, and they say, you can't hit me back because you're going to jail.
Oh, I've heard that. Yeah.
Right, and they have sex with men, and then if they get angry, hey, I just got raped. Your movement, is it for the men who are being sexually abused and mentally and physically abused, or is it just for the women only?
No, it's for everybody that is on the receiving end of sexual and domestic violence. So we are open to all survivors, men, women, and children, because we understand and we know for a fact that violence doesn't know just a gender, just a race, just a religion.
What would you say to men who are going through this with women? I hear it all the time.
Who are experiencing
who are verbally going through this stuff with women, who are sexually going through this stuff with women.
So where the women are aggressing upon the
yes.
men, you're saying? Oh, sure. Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that.
Right.
I would say the same thing to the men that I say to the women. Keep telling your story. Keep seeking help. Never feel weak. That there's a big stigma for men where, well, you let her slap you around, you're not much of a man, ha ha ha. No, you know what?
That's right.
There are bad women out there.
Yes.
There are bad human beings out there, period, that are just violent and awful people. There just are. So to the men, I say the same. The message is the same to any human being, man, woman, child. Find somebody that does believe you. Come to us. We will believe you. We will investigate your story, and we will help you. Find resources of education, such as your organization, right, where you can come and speak to other men who may help to amplify your voice, who can get you to the right people to get you help.
Do you consider yourself a feminist?
I consider myself a human being.
How about a feminist?
I consider myself a human being.
How about a feminist?
I consider myself a human being.
How about a feminist?
I consider myself a human being, Jesse.
How about, do you consider yourself I'm not asking, I can see that you're a human being, but do you consider yourself a feminist?
It's a good question. That's something that's been asked of me quite a lot recently.
Sure, yeah.
And I honestly, and I say this with all due respect to you, I don't know that I have an answer for that yet. The I Believe You project is a fledgling project. We're very new. Somebody just referred to me as an activist. Somebody else referred to me as, being in the forefront of women's rights. And I thought, all I'm doing is my thing. I'm just doing my thing, And if I help people along the way, that's really, I want to help human beings be better. And so I'm sorry. I wish I could answer yes or no, but I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't have an answer.